center stage. Let's talk about who's going to win these jobs. Jeff Darlington, Cam Newton, or Mac Jones in New England?
Greeny, tricky one here. My instincts keep wanting to go toward Mac Jones, but I'm going to say Cam Newton. I just don't know that there's enough time for Mac to take that job, especially given the precedent that Bill Belichick set back in 2000 when he had 4 quarterbacks, the fourth of which was Tom Brady. He made him work his way up the depth chart before getting that job. I think Cam Newton starts week 1. From there, though, it's anybody's guess.
That's an interesting one. So is New Orleans. Jeff, Saturday, you got Jameis or Taysom Hill?
I'm going Jameis Winston and Green. I don't think this is going to be as close as people think. Listen, he was in a system with Bruce Arians down in Tampa Bay that was a no risk it, no biscuit, and he risked it, and it cost him, right? He threw a ton of interceptions, 30 interceptions his last season there. I think under Sean Payton in this offense, he will shrink those numbers remarkably. This guy can spin it. Like, don't forget about the talent he had on the other side as well. I think he will flourish under Sean Payton and this New Orleans offense.
I strongly agree with that one. Tannenbaum, how about Chicago? Andy Dalton or Justin Fields?
Justin Fields, and despite what Coach Nagy said, Greeny, come on, there's such a big difference between their talent. And as soon as Justin Fields knows what to do offensively, knows the protections, again, my only concern is only 3 preseason games, but when he knows what to do, he should start right away. And as Jeff Saturday knows, those offensive players will tell Matt Nagy, this guy gives us the best chance to win.
Well, that's an interesting one. I find it fascinating because we had Sam Acho here yesterday, and he played for the Bears for a long time and knows a lot of the people involved. And he, while I agree with you, he sees it differently. This is what he said to us yesterday here.
My opinion has actually changed. Initially, I thought that Justin Fields would be the starting quarterback in week 1. I played in Chicago 4 years. I know Matt Nagy. I know the staff. I understand general manager Ryan Pace. I know all these guys. But if you go and actually watch some of the practices or go and listen to some of what Matt Nagy's saying, he wants Andy Dalton to start. He wants Justin Fields to sit, similar to what we saw with Patrick Mahomes when he was in Kansas City.
So Tannenbaum says it should go to Justin Fields. That's Sam Acho saying they want to go the Mahomes route. Jeff Saturday, what do you say?
Best laid plans. What's the Mike Tyson quote that was so strongly worded? Everybody's got a great plan until they get punched in the face, right? That's Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. Your job is on the line, right? You don't have the Andy Reid resume where he could wait for Mahomes and Alex Smith was at least getting you to the playoffs and doing those things. This team, they have got to win and win now. And to Mike's point, Fields gives you the best chance. I thought this was the second best quarterback in the draft. That has not changed for me. I think Fields will be a quick study, get behind this Bears offense. And to Mike's other point, offensive players, we understand what it requires to put points on the board. If this guy is our guy, we're going to go to the coach and say, hey, man, we want this guy. He gives us the best opportunity. Let's make a move. I get what you said in the press. It's time to move on so we can win some football games.
Well, Jeff Darlington, let me ask you that. There's been a perception, I think, for some time that the tenuous job status of the coach and the general manager would factor into this one way or the other. Is that real?
Yes, absolutely real. And we're talking about, by the way, a little bit of a different dynamic than some other times. This is a head coach and a general manager both on the hot seat. So it feels like at least the decision would be somewhat cohesive. Like these guys both should be able to look at this situation and say, Justin Fields, now we have to see what he's going to be able to do, or we're both out of this thing. So it's not the easiest decision in the world. Mike T could probably speak to it better than I. But I just know that when a general manager and a head coach are both on the hot seat at the same time, decisions tend to be a little bit more abrupt than perhaps otherwise.
Correct. And if that is the case, then I will just be the one to say that's just terrible organizational management, because the most important thing they can be doing right now is developing the young quarterback at whatever the best pace is for him. And the tenuous job status of the coach should not factor into that. You're not trying to win for 1 year when you trade up in the first round to take Justin Fields. You're trying to win for a decade. And if they're going to make decisions based on anything other than that, I blame that on the people all the way upstairs.
Yeah, agree. You're alluding to win for today and develop for tomorrow.
Right.
And go 6-11 with Andy Dalton and then play Justin Fields. But that's just not the reality of it. With that said, I do think because Fields' ability is so much better than what Andy Dalton could do. Because again, we haven't even talked about the plays Justin Fields can make with his feet and how explosive he is as an athlete. I think he does give him the best chance to win. But you're right, they should monitor the situation carefully and make sure they're putting him in a position to be successful. If he doesn't know what to do, and again, there's only 3 preseason games, then bring him along slowly. But again, to me, there's such a massive talent difference that you have to go with Fields sooner than later.
Maybe. All I'll say is if you're making short-term decisions over long-term priorities, that's an excellent way not to have any chance of winning anytime soon. In the meantime, let me go back to these top 10 lists. Our buddy Jeremy Fowler doing these polls, and he polled all these NFL GMs and coaches and execs and all these people, put together the top 10 players at a variety of positions. Today, the wide receivers are available, and at number 1 is Devontae Adams, who had 18 touchdown catches last year, most by any player in a season since Randy Moss. DeAndre Hopkins comes in at number 2, fitting considering he was second in the league in both receptions and receiving yards in 2020. Number 3, Stephon Diggs. Sensational season helping Josh Allen's development in Buffalo. Led the league in both receptions and receiving yards last year. The only Bills player ever to do so in their history. Rounding out the top 5, Tyreek Hill, you see on your screen there. The brand new Titan Julio Jones is at 5. You see the names on the right side there. Mike Evans at 7, 1 spot ahead of Michael Thomas, who played just 7 games last year due to injury. So we thought, rather than look at those all seem like reasonable choices. We thought to ourselves, which wide receiver will be in that top 5 when we do this next year? Give me the receiver who will be a top 5 receiver this time next season. Mike T, you're first.
Justin Jefferson, he had a remarkable rookie year, Greeny, and 2 numbers really stick out. He only had 3 drops on the entire season, and he had 175 yards after contact. He is hard to tackle. He's only going to get better. He's big, he's physical, he can run, and he has elite hands.
Okay, I like that one. Jeff Darlington, how about you?
Well, Greeny, you saw Julio Jones there backing up into the number 5 spot in that list. But look at A.J. Brown with the Titans to maybe sneak in there in Julio Jones' place. Because honestly, like, when I talk to Ryan Tannehill, for instance, like, I think his connection with A.J. Brown is such that it's not going to be a simple scenario where Julio Jones comes in there and simply takes the number 1 receiver role. I still think that A.J. Brown is the number 1 guy, and Julio is going to have to play a little bit of a different role than he ever has in his career. Hey, maybe his talent takes off as it usually does, and that changes things. But I wouldn't be surprised if A.J. Brown comes out of this year looking like an absolute superstar.
I can't help but think what it must be to be a corner and look out there and see Julio on one side and A.J. on the other. Jeff Saturday, how about you? Who's going to break into the top 5?
I'm gonna throw us in a little tissy here. I'm gonna say OBJ, Odell Beckham.
Oh.
Listen, when I look at what Stefanski did with Baker Mayfield last year, early in the season they were pushing him the ball, they were forcing it, everything, it just looked out of sorts, right? So everybody's like, well, the offense for the Browns is better without OBJ. Well, now that Mayfield has a year under his belt with the system, OBJ's coming off this injury with Chubb, with Hunt, with Landry, all of those things. And listen, this is still one of the most explosive receivers once the ball is in his hand. I think the progression for Mayfield actually helps OBJ, and he shocks the world. Listen, he's been humbled. He's been humbled the last few years. He understands it. I think he's getting back to the work that he had to do early in his career. I'm excited about what's going to happen in Cleveland with OBJ coming off this injury.
If so, if that's right, then the Browns become, without question, a legit Super Bowl contender.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go an entirely different direction. Mike Tannenbaum, you took Justin Jefferson. He was the second best player on his own college team a couple of years ago, behind Jamar Chase, the rookie, who that year, at the age of 19, playing with Joe Burrow, who will be his quarterback in Cincinnati, became the only college receiver ever with 20 touchdowns and 20 yards per catch in any season. Did I mention he was 19 years old when he did that? The world has forgotten how good he is because he opted out of last season. But he is going to be spectacular. He's reunited with his college quarterback. I think Jamar Chase is going to hit the league by storm. As we continue, coming up,
That's a good
who
one.
is going to stop Tampa Tom in 2021? That's the question. Does anyone have an answer? There's a